with me on a trip through history. Hey everyone, Dylan Schumacher, Citadel Defense, and we're back with another edition of Tactical Book Review. And today's book is Defenders of the West, the Christian Heroes Who Stood Against Islam by Mr. Raymond Ibrahim? I don't know how to pronounce his name. I apologize, Raymond. This book has been pretty popular the past couple years. It came out in 2022, so about 3 years ago now. And, I've seen it around a bunch. I actually got this for Christmas over a year ago and ended up finally getting around to reading it. And I am sorry that I delayed. I wish I would have read it earlier because it was very good and very pleasurable to read. This book essentially goes through 8 profiles of different people in their wars against the Muslims. So it's essentially like 8 short biographies of these people. People like Richard the Lionheart or St. Louis or El Cid or Vlad the Impaler. 6 or 7 out of the 8 of the people are very inspiring. One not so much. And one, maybe, kind of depending on who you are. But I found this book to be extremely informative and extremely interesting. Now, you could ask, hey, Dylan, what does this book on history of the Defenders of the West have to do with Tactical Book Review? What book does this really do me as a modern American Minuteman? Like, why should I bother? Well, the main reason you should read it, and there are others, but the main one is it's inspiring. When you read about the lives of great men, you are inspired to deeds of glory, right? You read about their lives and you say, that's amazing. I want to be like that, right? And that inspiration is why you should read this book, primarily. Other reasons, very good ones, and you should read this book. It's very easy read, very enjoyable. It will give you a much better understanding of Western history in general and the Western use of violence and the Western view of violence couched in a mostly biblical worldview that I think is just intriguing. So I found this book extremely interesting, and like I said, the main reason I think you should read it is it's inspiring. Reading bad biographies is terrible, okay? I've tried to read some bad biographies. I've listened to audiobooks through some bad biographies, and it can be pretty dry, pretty boring, pretty uninspiring, right? But when you get to biographies about people that are written in a way that help inspire you, help you understand what made them great men of history, and then you get to read through that, again, in an inspirational way, that's a lot of fun, right? I've read books where people are total fanboys of the person that they're writing about, and those tend to be awful because all they do is gush over them all the time, but without really explaining why they're so awesome, they just tell you that they're awesome. And then I've read biographies by people who hate the person they're writing about, right? And what they just do is just, rail them all the time. And that's pretty awful because I'm like, look, they didn't make it into the history books because they're just a human trash, right? That's not what gets them into the history books. I try to avoid those extremes. And this one falls somewhere in the middle, I guess, because he is able to explain what made these men great. He's not necessarily saying they're the best person ever and they're sinless or they're terrible or let me justify all of their wrongs or whatever. He's saying this is what they did. This is how they fought. This is how people at the time talked about those people. He quotes an incredible amount of primary sources, both from the European side and from the Muslim side. Very interesting read. Very interesting read. So I don't have enough good things to say about this book, Defenders of the West, the Christian Heroes Who Stood Against Islam by Raymond Ibrahim. I would tell you to get it. I would tell you to read it. I would tell you to just enjoy it, right? Sit down, drink your bourbon, smoke your cigar, read some pages of this book, and just ponder about what made these men great and how you might emulate their lives so that you too could harness some of their great characteristics and thereby become more and more like your heroes. I hope that's helpful. Do brave deeds and endure.